What is up, Packers fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Draft, brought to you right here by the good folks at Badger State Brewing, just minutes away from Lambeau Field in beautiful Green Bay, Wisconsin. I am your host and the publisher of Packer Report, Ross Uglum, and today we are talking about Green Bay's second round pick, Georgia defensive back Javon Bullard. And, excuse me, I say defensive back specifically because I'm not 100% sure where Green Bay actually plans on using this young man. And that's, I think, part of the excitement of drafting three safeties, part of the excitement of what Javon Bullard might be able to bring to this team. What I mean by that is his versatility is real. We've talked a lot about even in the Jordan Morgan case. Jordan Morgan is a versatile body type. Jordan Morgan is a smart football player. The feet to play tackle, but potentially the lower body strength, the lower body build, the shorter arms, the ability to run block, which he does have, theoretically makes you think he might be able to play guard. The Packers have said they believe he can be a 4-position player for them. With that said, that versatility is theoretical. Jordan Morgan has never played anything that we've seen other than left tackle. So Javon Bullard is not that. Javon Bullard has real versatility, proof of versatility. Now, how that all translates to the NFL, that's the $1 million question. But he spent the 2022 season as Georgia's nickel. They go on to win the national championship, then moves back to free safety and has another very good season for the Georgia Bulldogs, a place that Brian Gutekunst has absolutely enjoyed taking talent. Bullard is smallish, and I think that's the big knock on him. Similar to Darnell Savage in size, where he's right at Green Bay's minimums for safety. And if you move him over and think of him as a corner, especially if you think of him as a nickel corner, now he sort of fits more of what they do at 5'10 and a half, 198. But he's just not a huge guy, right? If he's views it as a safety, if we're talking about mock draftable, well, that's an 11th percentile height, an 18th percentile weight with an 18th percentile wingspan, 20th percentile arm length. He's just not a big guy. With that said, he's very fast. A 4.47 40-yard dash is very fast for both a slot corner and a safety. 10-yard split is truly elite at 1.51 seconds. Range is the word that I would use when discussing Javon Bullard. Now, Javon, I think I do believe we did a daily draft prospect primer on him. I know Javon ended up in the interchangeable piece that we did when Brian went up and said, I want our safeties to be interchangeable. I said, okay, what does that mean? Here are 6 guys. Javon Bullard was on that list. He is, to me, somebody that can be moved around. Now, they only played Bullard at safety in camp, which whatever, that's not a massive deal. But that's how they chose to do it. And I think he has some nickel flex. He has proven nickel flex. We've seen it from a scouting report perspective. And as I mentioned, or maybe I didn't, that we're not going to get super deep into the scouting report. He was very functional as a nickelback. Very good. Short area quickness. You can see that with that extremely good sub 4-second shuttle time. He's quick. His 3-cone time is fine. His shuttle time is super elite. You can see that he can handle slot receivers, which not every safety in the NFL can do that. On the tackling side, 12 missed tackles in his entire Georgia career. I believe his career missed tackle rate was in single digits, which is incredibly impressive. Yeah, it's a 9.2% missed tackle rate. That's really good, especially when we're talking about a guy that we can all agree is undersized or, small-ish, whatever you want to call it. He's just not prototypical safety size. I think if Javon was closer to 6 feet, closer to 200 pounds, he's probably a first-round pick with everything that he's put on tape. That's why you get him at the second end and second end of the second round. But also, I'd like to point people to, just the idea that, hey, the Packers have been criticized before, maybe rightfully, for looking over good football players in their constant pursuit of bigger, faster, stronger. Now, look, I'm all about bigger, faster, stronger. I'm not necessarily saying that what Green Bay does is wrong. Bigger, faster, stronger is good, but you got one of them, faster and really stronger. I mean, he tackles well. So that's impressive to me. Uh, Tracks the ball well. 4 collegiate interceptions, only allowing a passer rating into his coverage last year when he did move back to safety of 34.0. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's pretty close to 34.0 if you just spike it. I'm not 100% sure. But that is elite level coverage. And as I mentioned, the kid has tremendous versatility. So that's the scouting report things. But as I mentioned, in trying to make this a little bit different to what Andy does, we are heavy on looking forward. And by far, to me, the looking forward thing to Javon Bullard is the most interesting. To me, what they actually want Bullard to do is fascinating. Now, it could be very similar, eerily similar to when Brian Gutekunst took the Packers over and gave nowhere near the amount of money, but for them, a pretty big money deal to Adrian Amos. And everybody knew how rock solid Adrian Amos was. Not necessarily the world's biggest playmaker, but just like very good and very solid in everything that he does. Now, Xavier McKinney is that, but plus he's a playmaker, and that's what makes Xavier McKinney one of the best 3, 5, 6 safeties, whatever you want to call it, in the National Football League. Is he is as solid as Adrian Amos, but brings so many other things to the table from a playmaking perspective. Green Bay then chose to use a first-round pick on Darnell Savage as the free safety body type to pair with Adrian Amos, who they obviously planned on using more in a box role, and to use some of his sure tackling ability in that space. Now, if that's the plan, and you get a better version of Amos and McKinney, and you get a better version of Savage and Bullard, I'm fine with that plan. Goody talked a lot about interchangeability. I think McKinney has shown he can cover in the slot, especially if it's a bigger player. If it's an Allen Lazard, if it's a big slot, if it's a Chase Claypool type. Now, I know those guys aren't great players, but if it's that body type and not a KJ Hamler body type, right? Not a Tank Dell body type, I think McKinney can be useful in that. I think Bullard then obviously can do, some of that as well. The guy that I have no proof can do any, free safety or strong safety stuff would be the third guy, which right now would be Keyshawn Nixon. I have no reason to believe that Keyshawn can play any safety or any, strong safety. He'd be the one part of that isn't interchangeable, but Bullard, would be. That's one school of thought. And I got nothing wrong with that school of thought. Now, there's another school of thought, especially if you kind of take in who Green Bay took later, which is, I think, a real, more of a safety type in Evan Williams. And they traded up to do it. I'm not saying just because you traded up for a guy in the 4th round, you plan on starting him. That's not out of the realm either. Right where they took Jake Ryan, right where they took Blake Martinez, they'll start a 4th round pick. They don't care, especially in the middle of that defense. They're not worried about it. Now, with that said, do you view Evan Williams as potentially a starter? Potentially, because he's got a little bit of versatility. Is he that interchangeable piece? Interesting. And then you draft a real live, honest to goodness box safety / dime linebacker in Katano Ladapo. Do they not plan on using Keyshawn Nixon on defense? I know what I would do. They don't agree with me on Keyshawn Nixon. That's been made very clear. At least their public statements say that they don't agree with me on Keyshawn Nixon. I think it's possible, but for sure, but I think it's possible that your 3 most interchangeable pieces, if you were to play them together, would be Bullard, Evan Williams, and Xavier McKinney. That'd be a very interesting, quote unquote, big nickel. But I think both Evan Williams and Bullard, and especially Bullard, you can get away with as your actual nickel. Now, at camp, they just played Bullard at safety. Fine. Okay. But I got no problem with that. But I wonder if they didn't see what Detroit did last year with Brian Branch, who is a safety, but just played nickel the whole damn season. Is that what they see from Bullard? Do they find a little bit less value in the actual position of that other safety next to Xavier McKinney? Can that guy kind of be just a guy? And then did they go get Kitano Oladapo and Evan Williams and say, hey, one of you two needs to be just a guy? Again, I don't know for sure that they're planning on phasing Keyshawn Nixon out. I don't. But that's the interesting part. Number one interesting part is he truly interchangeable? Number two interesting part is if he's not, what if they just want him to be the nickel? That to me would be really exciting. It's how I always thought they should have used Darnell Savage. I shouldn't say always. Savage acquitted himself pretty well as a free safety player in year one and kind of in year two. After that, you just had to go see his struggles and go back to watch his Maryland tape. It's like, man, all of his best tape is as a nickel corner. So maybe that's just what you need to do, especially as Green Bay is kind of with Chandon Sullivan and Keyshawn Nixon, at least from a box score perspective. When they're targeted, both Keyshawn and Chandon have gotten just cooked. I think Savage would have been an interesting play there. I don't know how much worse it could have gotten, I guess is what I'm saying. So as a long-term fit, Bullard's the most interesting guy in the draft to me. Is he the free safety? Okay. He and McKinney could be something pretty darn cool. Are they being serious about this interchangeability thing? Well, then I need some proof that Keyshawn Nixon can actually be interchangeable. And I'd like him, frankly, to just play better at nickel. Or is he really just the next nickelback and they spent a second-round pick on a player of his caliber? That'd be really exciting to me, too. You see what the Kansas City Chiefs just did on defense by using first-round pick Trent McDuffie, one of the better corners in the league, and playing him at nickel. Now, I get that they have L'Jarius Sneed. That makes using Trent McDuffie inside a lot easier. But, man, that would be really, really interesting to me. Super, super interesting to me. Georgia guy, he's seen it all in the SEC. Has, as we said, not theoretical flexibility, actual flexibility. And I think he can just be a really good player for the Packers. I don't know if he's ever going to be a star, and I think they took a lot of these guys where I don't see star. I think the one guy I see star in is Edgerrin Cooper. I think there's a chance with Marshawn Lloyd. And look, Bullard could prove me wrong, but I think he could just be a really good football player. And that's important to have on your roster. And again, I wonder if Green Bay didn't, do some more of these trying to hit doubles instead of trying to hit home runs. With that said, though, the sky could be the limit. Kid is not even 22 years old yet. In a draft where Green Bay took a lot of 22, 23-year-old people, Javon Bullard's a young guy with a lot out in front of him yet and has shown some versatility, has speed, some other athletic places where maybe he lacks, but he has speed. He'll tackle. He's aggressive. According to Jeff Hafley, he's exactly what they want. All right. That'll wrap it up for Javon Bullard. Very excited, very pleased with this pick. The fit, to me, he's the most interesting fit of all the guys that they've taken. What do they actually plan on doing with Javon Bullard is the most interesting thing to me to watch over the first quarter of Green Bay's season next year. Guys, thank you so much for watching or listening. If you are on the podcast side, do everything you can to support us, follow us. Check out the Packer Report shop. We've got some really, really cool merch. Check me out on Twitter or X. I'm at Ross Uglum. Other than that, just do everything you're supposed to do here at the Pack a Day Podcast YouTube feed. Like, subscribe, click the bell, get the notifications so that you can get all of the Packers content that you need on a daily basis. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Go Pack, go.